Hello, and welcome back to the Disc Dog Pod. We're going to talk a little bit about freestyle and how your confidence on the field can help your score and how to improve, your appearance of being confident, whether you're actually confident or not. But, even if you don't feel confident, maybe there's some ways that you can show that you have confidence on the field.
Absolutely. And maybe not overconfidence.
Like you.
No.
I'm just kidding. All right. So confidence in freestyle. Why don't you start with your thoughts?
Well, there could be a lot of different things, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe we should talk about why you should want to be confident on the freestyle field and what benefits it has to you to have more confidence on the field or pretend that you have confidence on the field. How does it affect into your score and the overall feel of your routine?
Well, I'll start with one of the first things I think of, and that's your relationship with your dog. And if you have the confidence, it helps them be confident. If you aren't sure what you're doing, you're like fumbling around with your discs and you're dropping them and you're tripping over yourself and you're not thinking clearly and completely with what you're supposed to be doing, the current task, it's going to just spill over into your dog. And anytime I'm down a little bit like that, my dogs go down too.
Yeah,
the same way.
That's true. I could see that. It's like if you're frazzled and unsure, then your dog's probably reading that, and what are they gonna get from that? They're gonna be frazzled and unsure too. Whether that's just their confidence or their ability to focus in on like what are we supposed to be doing right now. Yeah, I can see how that would make a huge difference.
Yep.
I think related to what you're saying about the relationship with your dog too is that when you look confident out there as a player, it kind of shows a strong relationship with your dog. Like, me and my dog are on the same page. We know what we're doing. We're in this together. Whereas if you're unsure then or looking less confident, it may look like you don't trusting your dog as much, or you don't, what it really comes down to is usually you don't trust in yourself. But it's hard to see the trust and connection with your dog if you're kind of down on yourself, if that makes sense.
And you're not going to look professional, so to speak.
Yes, that's a really good point. And, you mentioned professionalism. I kind of think of like the showmanship aspect. So actually kind of fitting because today we're going to go see the Stars on Ice skating show that is put on by the Olympic medalists. And, when you watch somebody like that, yes, they're doing all these really cool moves, but they're also adding a little bit of flash and flair to it. Like most of those, very highly skilled performers at that type of level in their given sport or activity is, they're not just doing the move. They usually add something a little extra to it just to show that like, hey, look, I can do this, like a little extra, that confidence boost. And that does add a professionalism piece to your playing, your freestyle. And that's going to add to, any category score wise that's like a presentation or a showmanship or human element. And that's just beyond the throwing ability, just adding kind of that extra, confidence.
And even before your routine starts, there could just be little things, just maybe the way you signal for the music to come on, things like that just be to make it look that you're relaxed and you're ready to go. And I'm not going to say anything specifically necessarily about how you would do it, but I've seen ways that people maybe call for music, just something that's simple that they're looking at their dog and they're all focused on their disc and they just put their finger up in the air or something like that. And it just doesn't, it looks like they're all tense.
Yeah.
Versus someone that just goes out. I said I wasn't going to give any examples, but apparently I am.
Well, if you said that and I was kind of like, well, I'm going to dig anyway and start asking you if you don't start saying them.
So, it's a lot different if you come out, even as you're walking out there, maybe pointing at the scores table or wherever the music guy is, music girl, and you wave your arms in the air with the discs and everything like that, and you're moving and you're free flowing and you got something going on instead of just going out there stuck in stone and just putting your hand up or something like that, or just shaking your head yes over at the, it does mean something, even that small aspect.
Yeah.
Or even coming out and you don't want to be talking to the judges necessarily, but even sometimes I wave to the judges.
Oh, you do, huh?
Just
You wave at them? Do you give them the princess wave and you're like, hey?
No. Just something
I've seen you do it.
Just something casual. Who knows? It's just something very simple, like a little salute or something. Like, you never know. And sometimes I may have someone like a friend or someone who's new or a new person who's judging or something like that. I might just kind of point at them and be like, "Hey, nice to see you there."
Are you? You're pointing at your judges?
Yeah.
You're like I'm watching you.
Yeah, do you like that kind of thing?
Yeah, like I'm watching you. Yeah, I'm sure that goes over great.
It does. It's worked for me.
Okay, I've never seen you do that.
That's because you're never judging.
Okay, I've never judged an event you're playing in. Okay, so we got off topic a little bit. So
no, we didn't.
What other ways can you show confidence? I know you're like talking about the way you start the music, but like what about just throughout the routine?
So I think one of the big things, probably the main thing of all of this, is when you start each sequence, in particular right when you start them, and of course the execution of it, but once you collect your discs, you get with your dog and you're ready to do your sequence, you're doing it with a purpose. You're not just sitting there maybe delaying and not doing anything at all, not like making it look like you're really not sure what you're doing. You come right into it very confidently. You set yourself up in a certain way to show the judges what you want them to see, and you go through the sequence on fire. There's no delays, no hesitations. Everything's going smooth and fast, and that shows a level of professionalism again that you need to have. And I know a lot of judges want to see what they refer to as sequences. They want to see blocks. They want to see you gather yourself, get ready, and then do a quick sequence and then move on to the next one. And those judges are going to be able to notice that if you execute it properly by having that confidence.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point about, not pausing too much and not hesitating. I think sometimes people get nervous to do things and they hesitate a little too long. There's a difference between, something's not right here and I really need to reset this up, to work, versus like, oh, I'm hesitating because I'm like almost afraid to go into it.
Right.
And a lot of times what you'll see if people are worried, they either hesitate too much and then every trick is stopped, or they let the dog rush them, usually is a lot of times what happens. And then everything, like one miss after another, because the first thing didn't hit and it kind of threw the timing off of the rest of the segment. But
and a perfect example of that would be, let's say the first thing you're going to do in your sequence is a flip, which is a very common thing.
Yeah.
You come in or go to do the flip and you sort of make a motion towards the dog with a throwing motion, and you don't even do it, and then the dog flips, or they hesitate, or they turn, or they look at you, and there's this little like disjointed action that you see, and that happens a lot. And so I guess and I think a lot of it is the person maybe either isn't sure if they're oriented properly, or maybe even what their sequence is going to be. What I've always had in my mind is when I'm picking up my discs, if for some reason I just blank and I'm like, and that happens every once in a while, just suddenly, what am I doing right now? I've already decided as they're coming back to me, I'm throwing another long one the other direction. Give me a couple more seconds, because if I don't have my sequence already figured out in my mind, what I'm going to do before they get to me, I am going to just throw something in real quick. And those particular throws always look fine because I always have them in my bag of tricks that I can pull out something really fast, do a quick overhand, do a little air bounce or something like that, and get that disc out and allow me just a second to get myself straight.
Yeah. You either try to remember what you forgot, or you have a second to come up with something new.
Yeah, or move on to something
the next
like the
thing
next
you remember.
Sequence,
yeah.
And don't worry about, don't dwell on it, because if you dwell on it, it's going to be obvious.
Right.
So
yeah, I've had a lot of times where I get like 3/4 into the routine, I'm like, oh shoot, I skipped one of the sequences, and then I kind of throw it back in, and you won't know otherwise.
And that happens to me, and of course, a lot of times when that happens, it's like, wait, I just got to the end. What happened? And I realized, well, I had to have forgotten something. So I'm going to get a throw, a cool throw, not just an out throw, because we hate that term. We don't do out throws. I do a cool throw that will give me a moment to reset myself. Yes.
We'll have to do a whole other episode on the out throw rant, but don't trigger me. So Yeah, that's really good. Another way I was thinking, like showing confidence too, is just in the way that you pick up the discs. Like after you do, a longer throw to get the dog away from you and grab your discs, the way you're picking them up to me shows confidence. I see a lot of people that sort of will kind of stutter step and they're like looking around like frantically, where are the discs? Maybe they're watching the dog. They're not, they don't have a plan. And they may not know where the discs are going to drop. And that's, to me, that's kind of a little bit of a disc management issue or planning issue. That's something to think about when you're putting together your routines and when you're practicing. If you practice your full routine enough, a lot of people that do spend a lot of time just practicing sequences and not actually the full routine, you don't get the same disc management practice that you do when you practice the routine in its entirety. So when you know where the discs are going to drop, you kind of know what direction you're going to be running, where the clusters of discs are going to be and your best strategy as to where to go to get them. And so I see, stutter stepping and frantic looking for them. So having that plan and knowing kind of the general direction of which discs you're going to end up picking up. And then also, taking strong movements toward the discs. So I see a lot of people do kind of, I call it stutter stepping. It's like just little steps.
Shuffling.
Yeah, it's kind of shuffling. And it looks uncertain. But when you see a lot of people, like Andrew Hahn's a really good example of somebody who really, like, he runs to pick up his disc. He doesn't really shuffle like that. He has a good run. A lot of the European players, Adrian Stoica, if you watch any of the Harai family, they all have good, like, confident running skills towards the disc, those types of things.
And I think something else that I was thinking of while you were talking about that's really going to be reinforced with those examples you gave, is it always looks sort of like magic when you're picking up discs and you meet up with your dog, you go right into your sequence. It was just like it was all meant to be.
Yes.
How did they manage to get all their discs perfect and everything like that? Well, maybe they didn't. Maybe they usually want to have 4 discs, but they only had 3. But they just go right into the sequence. And they realize, I got to grab one in the middle of the sequence or something like that. Or maybe even
they have some kind of plan.
They have some kind of plan. And you can't tell whether they have the right number of discs or not. Maybe when they get to 3 discs, instead of the 4, they do the sequence that needs 3 discs.
Right.
And they can adjust like that on the fly. And I think that's what a lot of people do. A lot of the people that you mentioned can do that kind of thing. Me, I typically don't switch my sequences around. What I will do, though, is if I don't have enough discs, I go right into the sequence and I just make it work.
Yeah, a lot of times if I don't have the discs I need, my go-to is a handoff from the dog, even if I hadn't planned one.
Yeah, and I would say, I guess what I do, I could do handoff, or whenever they bring it, that's the disc I'm going to be using. And let's say they drop it 5 feet from me, I'm going to work in that direction a little bit, and I'll just pick it up right in the middle of my sequence.
Right. Yeah, for me, I think, the way my routines end up getting planned, I'm usually only ever missing 1 disc. So, a good plan will usually get you at least to that point where the likelihood of you missing like a whole sequence full of discs for your next one, you kind of know if that happens, you want to rethink your plan. If you're consistently missing like 2-3 discs for the next sequence, it's probably your sequences are really out of order, and you need to look at how many discs you need for each sequence and reorder it so that it's a better fit. So I usually am only ever short one disc. And I also tend to know which sequences that happens or could happen. And if it's frequent enough, then usually I end up changing the sequence, or I know, okay, maybe I should put the handoff here and actually just have it planned.
I do have a number of sequences where if I have too many, it's a problem. I've always
I do too, yeah.
had that. And when I do have too many discs, I've always tried to come up with a way of getting around it.
Yeah, I actually just had this with Flair. I needed only 2 discs and I had 4. And actually it was even more so because I had 2 discs in my hand and I actually was ready for the 2 disc sequence at the end, but that's at the very end of my routine. And I actually had 2 additional discs on the ground that I hadn't used yet because it was AWI. And I brought out, I think 7 or 8 discs. And, so I had 2 in my hand, but I realized that I also hadn't touched the 2 on the ground. Well, that's usually a no-no. That's kind of frowned upon disc management wise. If you have discs that you've laid out in advance and then you just leave them there and you don't touch them. So you want to make sure that you use all those discs. So I'm like, okay, out of, proper practice in my mind, I'm not going to just leave those 2 discs here, even though I have more than enough in my hand to do the last sequence of our routine. So I went over there, and as much as I didn't want to add 2 more discs, I'm like, okay, here we go. Now I'm going to have to do something with 4 discs, even though I have to have 2 because it was a shuffle sequence where I'm handing the disc back and forth with the dog. I can only have 2 for that. So what I ended up doing is, I grabbed the 2 discs and I ended up doing
flips
no, I did a leg over as she was running back into me.
Okay.
I actually had the time to set up for that. And then as she came into me, I did, before our shuffle, I just did like a little toss in front of her to kind of start the shuffle. And then I just didn't grab that one from her mouth. And I continued the shuffle with the other 2 discs in my hand. So you wouldn't have known. You would not have known that was like 2 extra discs. But that kind of plan and, faking confidence really, really sort of helped. But in my mind, I'm like, oh crap, what do I do now?
And this is the type of thing that makes the top level players look so good, is that flow is always tremendous on the best freestyle rounds. And that's something I've always tried to have, is great flow, that as soon as my dog is back to me, I am doing the next thing, whatever that may be, and adjusting on the fly if I have to do it.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up too, I mean, we've already kind of talked about it, but just that importance of having a plan. I mean, I think if you're just going to the park and you're just playing, go all out, just do free play, random, whatever. Sometimes good things come of that. But I think if you're doing, competitions and you're really serious about moving on to the next level, having a plan is really ideal, because then you know what you need. And like we said before, where the discs are going to land, and what you're going to do. And I think that in and of itself will give you some confidence, because you're not like frantic wondering, oh, what am I doing next? What am I doing next? What am I doing next? Memorizing your routine really well. Like, I know it's really common for people, especially in the beginning, to forget their routines and forget their sequences and tricks and all of that.
Yep.
So being able to commit that routine to memory is very helpful, I think, in boosting your confidence, because having a plan is nice, right? So, and the more well thought out your plan is, I think the more easily you can adjust to things like I mentioned with Flair, where I had 2 extra discs, or, I've had some things with like Flair 2, and actually all my dogs, where I've shorted disc and able to make up for it because I knew what I needed, and then I could easily make the path on how to get what I needed.
Yeah, I was going to give an example of something that I learned that Chris Sexton was judging me once. And after all the rounds were over, he came up to me and says, "Hey, I need to ask you something. During the round, you kept like looking over towards us. What were you doing?" And I was thinking, oh no, they noticed that?
What were you doing?
So I kept looking over at the flag that was behind them to see what the wind direction was. And the confidence thing is that I know what the wind direction is. I don't need to look at the flag. I can feel, but because I was so worried about making sure I do all of my sequences with the correct wind orientation and didn't want to make any mistakes, every single sequence, I would glance over and take a look at it and then go into my sequence. So I probably did it 5 or 6 times during my routine. That looks unprofessional, not confident.
It looks like you're kind of looking off into space, like, what are you doing?
This is quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And I don't do it anymore, except when I first start my routine, I usually at least glance over at it, especially if I don't feel much wind. Maybe I'll look over just to see if it's, is the flag moving at all? Maybe there's something I'm not feeling, or maybe there's more wind up, higher.
Right.
And, but other than that, I generally never look at it the rest of the routine. And that made a huge difference when he asked me that, because I realized
they noticed
that, and I never thought of it. I'm just thinking I need to make sure my wind direction's correct. And every time I looked over, I was facing the correct way. So why was I doing it?
You were just double checking. You weren't sure. Yeah.
And so that's the other thing. Get used to knowing what your wind direction is without thinking without picking up the grass, which I will do that before my toss and fetch round. Maybe that'll give you an idea of how strong the wind is and things like that. But during your freestyle round, you should be able to go spinning in circles all different directions. And as the wind is moving and changing different directions, any given moment, you should know exactly where the wind is. And it's
Kind of
mostly
goes
experience.
to my planning thing is like when I make a routine, I plan for the wind. And so when I'm making a routine and I'm coming up with something, a lot of times I will make the sequence as such that it's prepared for a specific direction of wind. Swirly wind, you really can't prepare for. So if you got that, good luck. When I'm planning that sequence, I'm also thinking about what the transition move into that sequence is and how that's going to set me up from the wind. So I think about that when I order my sequences as well. So like the first sequence, am I going to start into the wind? Am I going to start downwind? Which direction am I starting in? And the idea is that as long as the wind is staying constant in a direction, I'm not going to have to adjust anything. So from trick one on to the end, everything's set up for that specific direction of wind, and all of the transition moves and the way that I'm moving with my dog will perfectly set me up for the wind. Granted, it has to be going in a constant direction. Now, if it's not, then usually I'm going to do something like have the dog spin or go through my legs or, back up through my legs, or I got a variety of transition moves. And unfortunately, a lot of them end up it's a repeated move of what might be in my routine already. But sometimes that little sacrifice is worth it if the whole sequence is going to actually work if the wind changes on you, So yeah, that's something to think about too, that I feel more confident in the routine because I'm not having to overthink the wind and what direction it's going, unless it's like super swirly, which if it's swirly, then, maybe everybody's having that issue.
So the only other thing I have is just a quick mention of being overconfident. And that's what I'm not suggesting is that you shouldn't, I'm not saying you shouldn't go out there and feel, man, I got this. My dog is ready. We're going to crush this. It's exuding that overconfidence to everybody. And that could be running around and constantly yelling into the crowd and things like that, which you don't see too often. But whenever you do see it, it's so cringy.
Sometimes it's too much. You got to balance. You got to balance.
I have no problems someone coming out and waving to the audience or saying something like that.
In fact, that can show confidence. Like, especially you see a lot from people at IDC because it says it specifically in the score about getting the crowd going will improve your score. I think that's the only organization that actually calls that out specifically. But you see it a lot where, somebody catches the dog and they kind of point to the crowd or they put their arm up or something like that. Those kinds of things show confidence too. Dog catch is a really good opportunity for that just because it's a quick pause in the routine.
Right. I've seen a lot of people come out and announce something, yell something out in all directions for different reasons. Do whatever you want. That's your time. But as a judge, whenever I see that, I'm like, okay, come on, let's move on from this. Especially being just really loud and it's going on and on and on. And you keep doing it kind of thing at the end.
I don't see it that often.
No, I said that. You don't see it very often. But when you do, it looks pretty bad.
Yeah, I think you just have to keep a good balance of kind of the confidence and showmanship without
arrogance.
Yes, without coming off as arrogant. Exactly. Yeah. So I was going to mention another way to build confidence before we wrap this up. And one of the things that I did when I was younger is even when I didn't have the confidence, it's actually kind of funny that we're the two people doing this episode. Of course, who else would be talking about this unless we had a guest on? Maybe at some point we'll do that. But we're both kind of more shy, introverted people by nature. So it's kind of interesting that, freestyle is something that is very much, kind of a showmanship.
It is.
thing.
And we love it so much.
Yeah.
It's our favorite thing ever.
Yeah. Well, so I wasn't always like that. And I know you weren't either. You were probably a little more confident than I was, but you were also older. I was a little kid. So one of the things that I did to kind of help is help boost my confidence in my own head was fake it till you make it, baby. So I would pretend like I was just think in your head, okay, I'm Tracy Custer, or I'm Donna Shea, just thinking to myself, okay, if I were Donna, what would I be doing? How would I show this, and kind of for me, especially those two specific ladies, just besides the fact that they're incredible freestyle players, incredible players in general, and had really nice showmanship, still do have really nice showmanship skills. I think I also related to them because they're women. You know, I relate to them because they're not very tall women. So, and they're usually playing with like bigger dogs. Border Collie Tracy's played with some bigger dogs. So, like, I could kind of relate to those women and how they're playing. And for me, I was like, okay, maybe I could like emulate Tracy Custer. Like, I can't emulate Mark Mirror, like, you know, Todd, right? Like, guys, like bigger guys. So for me, just kind of like picking out a player that I really like that I could relate to and feel like I could hopefully one day get to their level, that helped me. So sort of fake it till you make it and just like pretend like you're somebody else. Okay, I'm not going out there as Kirby. I'm going out there as Tracy Custer today, and I'm going to nail it.
It's interesting. We do so many similar things. I would be the exact opposite.
Oh, I could see you being the exact opposite.
I'd always felt like, don't be like anyone else. Don't be like anyone else. Don't even watch anyone else so you don't look anything like them. Don't think about anyone else.
Yeah.
Try to do things that no one's ever seen or thought of, or just be in your own little, not necessarily in your own little world, but in terms of me developing my routines and things like that, I was always in the don't be like anyone else mode.
Yeah. I think I was scared, like stage fright style. like, oh my God. I would get so nervous just like, you know, going out there, not even the competition part, just the, oh my God, everybody's going to watch me.
It's a great thing to be able to go out there though, and to not have that feeling, you know, like where we are now, to be able to go out there and just feel so good and comfortable walking onto the field and actually taking it in instead of kind of being like with the blinders on, and which everyone pretty much when they start out has that feeling of, oh gee, everyone's watching me, that stuff, and you're like, you're in your own little world out there, not wanting anyone to even be watching you, even though you know that they are.
Yeah.
But now being able to go out and taking a breath, and I always love to look around and just see who's standing. And
I still got blinders on. At least when I start, I got blinders on.
I usually look around the field a little bit just to see who's out there watching, who's someone have a camera or anything like that. This is also useful information. Maybe you don't want to get too close to something. So I always just try to take it all in, looking at the field, make sure there's no discs laying out there. Maybe a hole you didn't notice in the field or a bad spot or something like that. See where the judges are, you know, see who is judging if you forgot or something, whatever. Just I like to take it all in and look at everything. I don't spend a ton of time doing it. It's a lot of glancing. A lot of times right before I go onto the field, I'm already kind of scanning and, you know, just getting.
Yeah, I do way less of that. I'm a little bit more blinders, and a lot of my like showmanship style moves, the pointing and the arms up and stuff, that's more faked. That's more faked. Yeah. I don't know. I have to focus on what I'm doing. And to me, that's all just like distraction.
So what do you think about when you do one of those things, and because you're doing it because you conditioned yourself to do it, or he's like, this is how I do it at this part of the routine or whatever. And then the dog misses, or the dog stumbles on it or does something and it doesn't look good, and then you're like, yeah.
Miss it. Well, I usually wait till they've caught it to do that.
But I see a lot of times that it doesn't happen that way. So what do you feel about that?
To me, I look at it kind of like, well, if they missed it, we're going to get scored down anyway. So, I mean, it's almost like it's when they do hit it, then it looks really good. And the expectation is hopefully that they'll hit it.
Yeah.
And if we don't, well, our score's going to go down anyway if we don't catch it. So that's kind of how I look at that. I know it doesn't look as good sometimes, but I also try not to do it until they've caught the disc. But, you know, sometimes it happens, or you think they're about to get it, and, you know, but I can't stand there the whole time, you know, spinning and pointing because I got to pick up discs.
Yeah, I used to do it a lot more before, and I think it was more, I don't know if the right word is like a nervous, it's almost like a habit. Used to do it a lot. And that was back then, like over 10 years ago, like 15 years ago. And it would happen more often.
With Flair. It's really hard to do it with Sora because she is so flipping fast. As soon as the disc is out of my hand, I gotta go pick up. Like, I won't get them in time. She is so fast coming back. It's not even funny. So I with her, our routine is way too complex, and there's so much stuff that I have to do in order to make the routine go, or Sora is going to be right there and she's going to be on me. And we have a few tricks that are like, I need to be set up for the next thing as soon as she's catching the disc out in the distance. So I really don't have a lot of time with her to do that stuff. So I do way less of it with her. Whereas Torch, I didn't have so many long throws with him. So it was easier for me to pick up my discs and gather my discs. And he came back really fast, but Sora just, I swear, she looks at me and she's like, oh, she doesn't have enough discs. Let me go even faster. And so like, Sora's like, how can I make this more difficult by running back extremely fast? I feel like Torch would come back fast, but it wasn't like his toss and fetch return. So I actually had more time to pick up the disc, and it was easier with him just based on the style of routine that he had. Kind of like with Flair too. Flair doesn't come back as fast as Sora. Her style of routine, I have more time to pick up the discs. And Sora, I just don't have any time to do any of that. And our tricks are too difficult. I don't have time. I don't have time for anything because our stuff's too difficult and she's too quick.
Yeah, and I get that because I have I always feel like I'm being pushed by Bon Bon. Her return speed is just like she's insane.
She's worse than Sora. I swear. And then she won't even bring the one back in her mouth.
Oh no, she spits that thing out, and sometimes if she jumps, she doesn't even land, and she's already spit it out, and she is coming back so fast. The dirt and grass is flying up everywhere.
If you didn't know any better, you'd think that she saw a squirrel. And she's like, I'm gone.
It's as fast as she could possibly go. And it's funny because she's so little.
It's faster than her toss and fetch return, actually.
Exactly. And it's because she likes freestyle more than toss and fetch. Yeah. And she's just completely lit when she's doing freestyle. It's a challenge. I mean, I've said this so many times that she is the most difficult dog I've done freestyle with.
I've watched her so many times catch it. And then you're like getting the first disc, and and she spits that thing out and turns around and just fly. And she gets back to you, and you're like, you're looking at your hands, you're looking at her, and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but
she's tough.
It's athletic, and you can't blame a dog for that go mentality. Yeah. So I just have to.
Flair tries to do that too. Oh my gosh, Flair is gosh. I worked on that with Flair so much because I was like, oh no girl, you too fast.
And it's interesting because one of the judges that I talked to a few years ago told me that one of the things he really likes about me playing with my dogs, he says better than most competitors, is he sees how well I adjust from dog to dog. He said, if I have a dog that, this would be a perfect example. When Bon Bon is flying back like crazy like that, I'm moving quicker. I'm doing more clever things to get my discs. Things like that. I'm adjusting to that dog. Whereas, let's say a dog that was the opposite of that was Key. She had a much slower return in freestyle. And because of that, I was able to almost be more relaxed. And so whenever I played with her, it looked more, almost like a smoother, just more, not as frantic looking. And hopefully it doesn't look frantic in a bad way with Bon Bon, but I'm moving way quicker. I'm thinking faster.
It's gotten better, but there's been like a couple times, like especially in the beginning of the season when you're still trying to put it together with her, that you're just like, oh my God,
every time
I can't do it.
At the beginning of the season, it's pretty much a disaster with us because I always let her have many months off when the season's over. And when I start it back up, it's just, she's
even worse because she's had the break. So she's even more wired.
Yeah. So I've always been able to adjust pretty well though from one dog to another if they're really fast in a return, or a dog that drops it like Bon Bon versus a dog like Muse that would just bring it right to me every single time. I do that confidence thing of being able to play at your dog's pace and be able to play properly with them. So that if you have a dog that's really slow and you are running around like all crazy, all frantic, it's going to look really weird because your dog is going to be out there still and you got your discs, and then, you could still go a little quick, but you don't want to be going like real hyper mode, trying to get all your discs and be all ready whenever you don't actually need to do that because your dog's right. You have to go a little bit at their pace and try to adjust And that's confidence.
Yeah.
Being able to do that and making it look good.
A lot, like I said, a lot of it goes back to having that plan that fits and works, and a good plan, makes it a lot easier to just go out and chill when it's time to do the plan.
Right. And like with Muse, if I was doing a Skyhounds routine with 5 discs, I had most of my sequences were 4 or 5 throws. And I usually didn't have to pick up one during the sequence. So it was lots of throw heavy, closer things that I was able to do and things like that. With Bon Bon, I have a lot of sequences that are 2 or 3 throws because I need the time to be able to go get my discs. And I'm not going to go get 5 discs. There was 0 chance I could ever go get 5 discs with Bon Bon unless I could throw it like 80 yards beyond the easy ups into the parking lot.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Skyhounds Field is usually, especially at the finals, way smaller, way more enclosed than any of the others. So that just makes it all more challenging.
Tougher,
yeah, especially with that type of dog or like a Sora type dog. Those are way harder dogs to do a Skyhounds routine with.
And typically what I do with Bon Bon, when I went and do the other routines for other organizations that allow you to have 7 discs or 8, 9, 10, whatever, I tend to still go out with very few discs, and I got to do it in 2 minutes. I try to go out with 5 or 6 discs to really push myself to try to stay at that level. Then when I go to the finals, take those extra discs out, and then it just makes everything easier at the moment. Maybe a few of the practice rounds before I go to the finals, I'll do the same thing just so I know what I'm going to do with them and get a little familiar with it. But then I have myself conditioned that I can go through this routine with 5 discs, but now I got 7.
Yeah. For me, I do kind of the same thing, except for I don't really differentiate it between the finals or not. It's more like at AWIN, UFO, and USTDN, I can get more field movement. That's really the main difference between like playing at Skyhounds with 5 discs versus the others, is that I can get more field movement. And then also I may have like a sequence where the discs are harder to pick up. Usually that's like a distance type thing, like an around the world or like a longer multiple or zigzag type thing where the discs are going to end up further away from you, harder to go pick up. That's usually what I have, like maybe the extra discs for. I leave it for that sequence.
Yeah, that makes sense. But if you want to challenge yourself a little bit, take out fewer discs than what is called for, especially if it's a local competition. You're not trying, it's not anything
usually only go out with
whatever. Just try to do less than what you need, maybe just to challenge yourself, make yourself a little bit better and make your dog better. Work more on them returning the disc. You could do it in practice. Try doing your routine with 4 discs or something like that. I mean, just try different things to try and it'll give you a lot of confidence.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Is that all you had? Anything else you want to add? I think we talked a lot about it. So hopefully this has given you some good ways to help build your confidence and reasons why it's really important in your freestyle and how it can help you. So thanks for watching. This has been the Disc Dog Pod. Bye.